Hello everyone, this is Sarah, Painty Creator here. I hope you're having a lovely time, and I'm just setting up to paint this little tiny hedgehog. So I ordered some mounts, and when they came they were tiny. This is an aperture of around about 5 centimetres square, and I nearly sent them back, and then I thought, no, I can do something with them. So this is 5.5 centimetres square. I'll just check that I can get that hedgehog in. Yep, I can get that hedgehog in. And I've just got it taped to the board really for holding it still. So it's an approximate circle with a little bit of a nose, and then 2 little feet. Actually, I could put a little hand there. That might be quite fun as well. They are. So just a tiny little approximation. We're going to carry on. So I've got my little putty rubber. Give it a good rub over so I can still see it, but it's fainter, and I'm not going to get some of that graphite in the mix. So time to use some of my new brushes. If you've been following on, I bought myself a set of these new little Meaden brushes. I think they're about £20 for 10 brushes, quite a good value. So I'm going to use my little number 3 to start off with. Plenty of water. Oh, better get some clean paper towel. So I'm just going to use a little bit of raw sienna. My palette unfortunately isn't very clean because I've been using it to make lots of different cards. So a little bit of raw sienna. I'm just going to go in. Go around that eye. Shade under here. Wash my brush, and then I'm just going to use some, take a bit of water out. I'm just going to use some water to spread it around a bit on the paper. If you prefer, you could just wet the paper beforehand. And different papers react differently to that. If you're using our Creative Peak, sometimes I find that I have to wet that so that I can work smoothly like that. So I'm just going to pick up some raw umber. So nice pale colours for the tummy. I'm just going to drop in a little bit around there, under the chin and on the tummy. Take the water out and just spread it around. So just lifting up a little bit of a highlight on that face area. And a little bit of a highlight on the tummy. And then we're going to just let that dry. So here we are, we're dry. I'm just going to wet with some clean water this area on the back. I'm just still getting used to these brushes as to how much water they hold. It's a really good opportunity for you to get to know your brushes doing things like this. Just put a little bit of water into there, and I'm just going to let that water go in to the paper. I don't want these big puddles. Bit of a thirsty brush. Don't want a big puddle at the bottom. Want it to be nice and moist, but not too puddly. So picking up some burnt umber, I'm going to drop it into this mix that I had from before. A little bit of burnt umber. This is going to be my base mix, and I'm just dab, 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 dab. And then on the dry paper, I'm just going to pull it out with some little prickles. Paint over that hand for now. I'm going to put the hands in a little bit darker. So this is where this little point comes in, very valuable. Colour on the hands and the feet. So whilst that is still wet, I can add some ultramarine blue into the mix. If you wanted, you could add indigo, you could add any of those to darken your mix, or you could just use some sepia. And I'm just going to drop in some random dots for the little ones' prickles. So leaving some areas clear. Tidy that edge up a little bit. There we go. And if your prickles are being lost, you can add some darker ones along the way. And we may have to go back in to add even darker prickles as things dry, because watercolour dries lighter. I'm trying to keep this area a little bit lighter, so it's got a bit of a difference of tone, and a bit darker underneath with the shadows. So I'm going to dry that. So there we are, we're dry. Quite like some of these tones. I'm just going to go back in with the same dark, but just adding a few extra prickly bits. And I'm just going to add this little hand as well. So there's just another layer of dark. I think it's a really good thing to be painting and sharing hedgehogs this time of year, because I always worry about them at bonfire night over in the UK because they find their way into these big log piles and think that they're safe, and they're not. So that's a nice way of sort of just reminding everybody. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Paynes grey into this mix. And then I'm just going to paint his nose a little bit darker. And then I'm just going to paint the eye, leave a little bit of a light. And then I've just got to put a little bit of a shadow colour on his tummy and where he's standing. So I've got some very watery purple lake. So I'm just going to add that under and on his tummy, under his chin, on his tummy. And maybe a little bit on there as well. And then a bit more purple light. I might add some of this blue that's in here as well. Just to put a little bit of a grounding. Wash my brush, wet underneath so that you've got a bit of an idea of a gradient. There we are, our little hedgehog. A really nice, fun paint. Maybe you'll give him a go. See you soon.